I feel unattractive and my husband of 5 years has low libido. I, 34F, have been happily married to my husband, 41M, for 5 years. We've got 3 kids. Together we've made a family and help each other's dreams come true, both life goals and careers. We lead a generally charmed life. But like all relationships, none is completely perfect. We have different love languages, words of affirmation, mine, and acts of service, his. For the most part we overcome this by making a bit of extra effort to speak each other's love language. I do some of his chores during the week. He occasionally pays me a compliment, maybe 3 times a week. However, the trouble started after we'd had our 3rd child. We hadn't had sex for 9 months and when I brought it up, he was shocked. He could hardly believe it had been that long, but when he looked back he could see it was true. We had sex once after that conversation, and then nothing again for a few months. About 6 months after our baby was born, I started to feel really down about the way I looked. I hadn't lost all of my pregnancy weight, about 1 kilogram over, but still totally within the normal BMI range. I felt fat and flabby and saggy. I tried to mask over this insecurity by just ignoring it for a while as I'm generally bubbly and confident, but the lack of sex made me seriously doubt whether my husband was even still into me. Google didn't help. All I could find were either stories of men who wanted more sex than their wife, I wish, or people telling women their husband wasn't into them anymore. All of this is complicated by the fact that I can't be the one to initiate sex as this can turn him off. And I also didn't want to pressure him into sex, so I just for the most part tried to make myself as attractive as possible and then wait for him to notice. It all came to a head one night when I burst into tears and confessed all my struggles to him. He was very sympathetic and also worried because of course he wants me to be happy. He explained that he just has low libido, nothing to do with me, and that as far as he's concerned he'd happily never have sex again in his life. Not that he didn't enjoy it or anything, but he could live without sex no problem. He realized as a result of this conversation that I didn't feel the same way and he'd make an effort to initiate sex more often. Since then things have improved a lot, we have sex 1 to 2 times a month now. And we both enjoy it tremendously. But I still feel like I want more sex. And I still feel unattractive. Past partners couldn't get enough of me, they were always telling me how sexy I was, kissed me every day, looked at me like they wanted me, etc. I have always been treated like a sex goddess. He rarely even looks at me. I am only 34, I feel too young to be shelved like this. Frankly, I don't know if I'll ever want to be shelved, but definitely not in my 30s. I am frustrated that I can't talk myself out of feeling this way no matter how much I try. I am happily married. I am off the market. I shouldn't care whether or not I am attractive. It should be enough to know that my husband finds me attractive even though he never says so and only has sex 1 to 2 times a month. This should be enough and it's already 10x more than before. But I can't stop my feelings. I miss sex. I hate what I see in the mirror almost every day and I never used to be like that. I want to feel like a goddess again. Any advice? Any way to make myself feel better without asking my husband to change? TLDR, we have sex 1 to 2 times a month. Husband rarely gives me compliments. I feel unattractive. I want to feel like a goddess. Advice please. Update, wow, I am so glad Reddit exists. Thank you so much for all your thoughts and suggestions. My husband and I had a good conversation about everything and will be taking the following steps. Start sleeping in the same bed again. I didn't mention it in the original post, but we've been bed sharing with kids in separate beds and clearly the time has come to evict the kids from our bedroom. Smiley face. He is going to see the doctor to exclude any possible physiological reasons. For example, low libido can be a symptom of heart disease and he's at an increased risk of that. Wouldn't hurt to test his testosterone levels either. We're going to hit the gym together, he'll go swimming, and I'll lift weights. If doing those 3 things is still not enough, we will go to therapy. Either as a couple or me on my own, or both, depending on how things pan out. Update 1. I felt unattractive and undesirable, and wanted to have sex more often, but he was happy to never have sex again, aside from how that would affect me. I wanted to feel like a sex goddess again. Reddit advised me all kinds of things, from checking testosterone, to therapy, and even that there was no hope, and if I wanted to feel like a goddess again, I'd have to leave him. The comment that hit me hardest was Jimmy Judenseparties, who pointed out that I was allowed to feel the way I did. Well, I feel like a goddess again, everyone. Laughing face. What happened? I decided to go to individual therapy, and focus on myself, work on myself. My physical self-image was a symptom of a larger problem. Troubles at work, troubles at home, a storm inside. During counseling, I opened the door to a cellar where I had been keeping my true self locked in the dark, ashamed of her. I was bullied as a kid, and I had no idea I had accumulated so much self-loathing since then. Releasing that was amazing and so freeing. And so, by the time I said goodbye to my counselor, I was stronger and more self-assured. I realized I had been sacrificing so much of myself for the sake of others, especially the important men in my life, my husband, my boss, my father, my manager, etc. I was constantly seeking approval, trying to please them. My relationships had gotten completely out of balance. Things started to get complicated. I developed a crush on a colleague, and because I am demisexual, my attraction to my husband started to diminish. The more time passed, the more I felt like I just didn't care anymore what he thought of me. At a low point, I said to my husband, "You know, you always keep your thoughts to yourself." I used to find it mysterious and interesting, like a puzzle I could unwrap. But now I realize that there's actually no mystery to unravel. There's just nothing. And the silence is boring. It was hurtful and unkind. I'm not proud of it. Something changed after that. Both for him, and for me. Over the course of the next few months I gave less, and I took more. I went to conferences, I left the kids with my husband, I took time off work, I stopped making up for the mistakes of my superiors at work and let them deal with the consequences of their actions. I felt like I was coming home to my true self, my no-nonsense kick-ass self. One night my husband and I were watching Alien, and he confessed that ever since he'd seen the original as a boy, he'd really liked Ripley. She was the kind of woman he had wanted to marry. And so he married me. You should have seen my face, the tears wouldn't stop. I felt like he had finally told me what I needed to hear the most. I got rid of my attraction to my colleague. It's actually not that hard as a demi, I just focused on everything I didn't like about them, and within a week or two the crush was totally gone. I find them a total turn-off now. Do you remember I mentioned I wasn't able to initiate sex? That's because it was a huge turn-off for my husband. One evening we discussed why, and you know what? He felt too much pressure if I initiated, because he thought he'd have to perform. Once he realized that he can safely turn me down if he's not in the mood, and also that it's okay for us to kiss and cuddle without it leading to something more, he's been okay with me initiating. You'd think you wouldn't get to age 40 without having figured that out, but hey. I guess people never cease to throw surprises. Haha. Our sex life improved a lot. I no longer needed his praise to soothe my self-loathing, so I was less needy about it. He initiated a bit more often. But more importantly, with greater enthusiasm and quality. He chooses what I wear sometimes, and I feel so beautiful when he looks at me like I am the only being that matters. And he compliments me. We even got into a bit of light D/S, which has spiced things up a lot. Even though I had fallen out of love with him for a while, I have fallen back in love with my husband stronger and harder than ever before. I couldn't be happier, I love myself, and I love him so much. He's just the best partner I could ever wish for. Love. Thank you Reddit for helping me through one of the hardest lows in my life, and thank you especially Jimmy Judenseparty for your advice and encouragement. TLDR, I felt unattractive and my husband didn't want sex. I went to a counselor. I stopped self-loathing. Husband and I fell back in love again and have great sex. Update, OMG thank you for all the comments and awards. I have no words. I thought maybe 5 people would care about the update, not this amazing amount of encouragement. Thank you so much, so glad to have been on this journey with you. Love.